Kirk Frost's journey with love and hip-hop isn't just about the scandals. It's about the power struggles and personal battles that have kept him in the spotlight. From the very first season, Kirk had solidified his place in the show's history. He was the guy who brought the drama, the energy, and above all, the raw moments that fans ate up. His relationship with Rashida, his ups and downs with fellow cast members, and his endless controversy made him a cornerstone of the franchise. But with time, the cracks began to show. The show's format was evolving, and it seemed like the producers were shifting their focus. New faces were being introduced, old tensions were resurfacing, and Kirk started noticing that his screen time was shrinking. Still, he didn't think much of it. Every season, people got worried about being replaced. He had always been a survivor, so he brushed it off as just part of the game. Little did he know, this time would be different. At first, the rumors were laughable. Just another one of those season-shifting stories designed to stir up drama. Everyone on the show had been through it. "You're getting cut! You're getting replaced!" producers would joke, knowing full well that it was part of the territory. But when the rumors about Kirk started coming from people inside the production team, things took a different turn. These weren't just idle whispers from gossip blogs. They were coming from within the very structure that had built Kirk's career. And that, Kirk realized, was something he couldn't ignore. The first hint of trouble came when a simple post appeared on an industry gossip site. Is Kirk Frost getting the boot? Producers want to clean house and bring in fresh faces. But first, it seemed like just another baseless rumor. Something meant to keep the fans guessing. But then, the whispers began to get louder. The posts were everywhere. Fans were speculating, and more disturbingly, people inside the production crew started nodding along with the claims. For Kirk, this wasn't just another rumor. It was a threat. The first piece of real evidence came in the form of a leaked email. A screenshot appeared online, showing a conversation between the Love and Hip Hop producers discussing the direction of the show. "We need to bring in some fresh blood," one producer had written. "We can't keep relying on the old cast. Let's start phasing out the older faces." The email didn't mention any names, but it was clear who they were talking about. Fans immediately started speculating, and all signs pointed to Kirk. At first, Kirk laughed it off. There was no way they would cut him. He had been there from the beginning. He was part of the show's DNA. But when the leaks continued and the tone from the producers grew colder, his confidence started to waver. This wasn't just talk anymore. This was a plan in motion. The real shocker came when an audio clip of a private production meeting surfaced online. It was a conversation between several producers discussing the future of the show. The words were clear, and they cut to the core of everything Kirk thought he knew about his place on the show. "Kirk's storyline is tired," one voice said. "We've gotten everything we can from him. The fans aren't invested in him the way they used to be." The words echoed in Kirk's mind as he listened, the weight of their impact sinking deep into his chest. The worst part, though? The producer's conclusion was chilling. "He's replaceable." Those words, spoken so casually, sent Kirk's world spinning. How could they think of him as disposable? He had worked tirelessly for years to build his character and create the drama that made the show a success. Yet here they were, discussing him as if he were just another cog in the machine to be swapped out for something newer, younger, and more exciting. Kirk's phone felt heavy in his hand as he listened to the clip over and over again. He had built his life on the assumption that he was too important to be replaced. But now, it seemed like everything was in jeopardy. Was his time really up? Kirk knew there was one person who understood the game of love and hip-hop better than anyone else: Stevie J. A veteran of the show who had faced his own battles with being pushed out, Stevie was the one person Kirk could trust to give him the truth. He didn't waste any time dialing Stevie's number. The phone rang a few times before Stevie picked up, his tone casual but somehow distant. "What's up, man?" Stevie asked, a lack of urgency in his voice that made Kirk's stomach turn. Kirk wasted no time. "Tell me the truth, Stevie. What's going on? Am I really on the chopping block?" There was a long pause on the other end of the line before Stevie spoke again, his voice lower this time. "Look, Kirk, I don't know all the details, but I've heard the whispers. They want to shake things up. They're bringing in new faces. And they think some of us, hell, some of you, have run your course." Kirk's heart sank. He had been here from the very beginning. He had seen cast members come and go. But he always stayed because he was part of the show's foundation. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Run my course?" he asked, his voice cracking with frustration. I've been here since day one. I built this damn show. Stevie sighed, and for the first time, there was real gravity in his voice. Kirk, it's not just about the show anymore. They've got something. On you. Kirk's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? What could they possibly have on me? Stevie hesitated. I don't know the specifics, but there's talk. Something from your past that could come back to haunt you. And if it does, you might not just lose the show, you could lose everything. Kirk stood frozen, his mind racing. What could they possibly have on him? He had survived cheating scandals, child support battles, and even rumors about his marriage falling apart. But nothing had ever been serious enough to take him out of the show. Had he missed something? He was about to press Stevie for more details when the phone beeped, another call coming through. It was Rashida. Kirk answered the call immediately, his voice tight with worry. Rashida, what's going on? Tell me you know something about this. Rashida's voice came through soft, almost hesitant. Kirk, I've been hearing the same things, but I didn't want to tell you until I had more information. It's bad. Kirk's chest tightened. What are you talking about, baby? Just tell me. Rashida took a deep breath. I spoke with one of the producers off the record. They said they're worried about your image. Something's come up from your past. If it gets out, it could be a problem. A big one. Kirk's pulse began to race. What kind of problem? What could be so bad that they're trying to push me out? Rashida hesitated again before finally speaking. They're saying it's something illegal, Kirk. Something serious. If it gets out, you might not just lose the show. You might lose everything. Kirk froze. A cold chill ran down his spine. What could this be? He thought he had left his past behind, but now it was all coming back to haunt him. What was the network digging into? What were they planning to expose? As Kirk stood there trying to process Rashida's words, his phone buzzed again. Another anonymous call. His heart skipped a beat as he stared at the number on the screen. Hesitating for a moment, he answered the call. Hello? He said, his voice tight with uncertainty. The voice on the other end was low, confident, almost mocking. Kirk, you're in deep, aren't you? Kirk's grip tightened on the phone. Who the hell is this? The voice chuckled, a cold sound that made Kirk's stomach churn. Let's just say someone who knows what's coming. And trust me, you're not ready for it. Kirk's mind raced as he tried to process the cryptic message. If you've got something to say it, he demanded. The voice continued. Slow and deliberate. They've got receipts, Kirk, old deals, money moves, things you thought were buried. And now the producers have their hands on it? Kirk's breath hitched. No, that wasn't possible. He had been careful. He had covered his tracks. How could they have found out? The voice laughed again before hanging up, leaving Kirk standing in silence, his mind spiraling with fear. Kirk couldn't sit still. He needed answers. And Carly Red, always at the center of drama, was the next person he needed to confront. He made his way to the restaurant where Carly was known to hang out. When he walked in, Carly was sitting at the bar, sipping a cocktail, looking as relaxed as ever. When she saw him, her lips curled into a smirk. Well, well, look who decided to show up, she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Kirk ignored her attitude and slid into the booth, across from her. Cut the act, Carly, he said, leaning in. I know you've been running your mouth. I'm getting called by anonymous numbers, and they're saying there's some dirt on me. The producers are eating it up. Since you like to dig into people's business, I figured you might know something. Carly raised an eyebrow, clearly enjoying the tension. Boy, please. I ain't got time to be plotting on you. If I wanted you gone, I'd do it in your face, not behind your back. Kirk studied her closely. Carly wasn't subtle, but something about this felt off. Maybe Rashida was right. Maybe this wasn't just Carly being messy. This was something bigger. Carly took a sip of her drink, clearly enjoying the drama. But I will say this, she added. You ain't wrong to be worried. The streets are talking. And from what I hear, this ain't just some random scandal. Somebody's got it out for you. Kirk's stoach tightened. Who? Carly leaned back, tapping her nails on the table. That's the million-dollar question, ain't it? But if I were you, I'd start looking at people you thought you could trust. Kirk froze. His mind immediately went to one person. Bambi. Could she be the one behind this? The drive to Bambi's house felt like the longest journey of Kirk's life. His mind was racing, trying to piece everything together. Bambi was smart, and she knew how to play the game, Had she been using this scandal to her advantage? She had distanced herself from Kirk after the fallout with Scrappy, but could that really explain the sudden whispers about him when Kirk arrived? At Bambi's house, she was already waiting for him outside, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. "Kirk, what the hell are you doing here?" she asked, her tone more defensive than usual. Kirk didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Cut the games, Bambi. Are you the one behind this? Are you the one feeding the producers stories about me?" His voice was tight with anger, and his fists clenched at his sides. Bambi's eyes narrowed, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. "What the hell are you talking about?" she said, taking a step back. "I don't know anything about that." Kirk took a deep breath. "Somebody's trying to take me down. And it ain't a coincidence that all this started after you started moving funny. So, what's your play, huh?" Bambi scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Boy, please, you think I've got time to be worrying about you? I've got my own damn problems, all right?" Kirk wasn't convinced. "Then why is your name coming up? Why are people saying I should be watching my back around you?" Bambi's expression darkened, and she took a step forward. "Because they want you looking at the wrong people, Kirk," she said, her voice low. Kirk's chest tightened. "What do you mean?" Bambi rubbed her forehead, clearly trying to gather her thoughts. "Listen to me," she said, her tone softening. "If somebody's trying to bury you, it's not coming from me. But if you want my advice, look at the network. Look at the people pulling the strings. Because this ain't about replacing you on the show. This is about getting rid of you for good." Kirk's blood ran cold. Bambi's words hit him harder than he expected. This wasn't personal. The producers weren't just trying to push him out. They were trying to erase him entirely. Kirk left Bambi's house feeling like he had a bit more clarity. But he knew that Bambi was right. There was only one place to look next. He needed to talk to Stevie J. He had been in this game far too long to not understand the intricate web of manipulation, power moves, and deception that ran through the show. If anyone knew what was happening, it was Stevie. As soon as Kirk arrived at the dimly lit lounge where Stevie had asked him to meet, he saw him sitting in the back booth. Stevie was relaxed, sipping a drink as if there were no problems in the world, and that only made Kirk more anxious. Stevie leaned back as Kirk slid into the booth across from him. "Took you long enough," Stevie said, his voice casual, almost dismissive. Kirk wasted no time. "I know you know what's going on, Stevie. I need to hear the truth." Stevie sighed deeply, setting down his drink. "Look, man, everybody knew this was coming. Everyone but you. The network's been planning this for months." Kirk's stomach dropped. "What the hell does that mean?" Stevie leaned forward, his voice becoming more serious. "The network is cleaning house. They're phasing out the old guard and bringing in fresh faces. They don't need you anymore, Kirk. They need a new villain." Kirk felt like the wind had been knocked out of him. "A new villain? You're telling me they want to replace me? With someone else? Just like that?" Stevie nodded slowly. "That's the game, bro. They build you up, make you the star, and then they tear you down. You were a part of the old era, but now they need a new face, a new story, and you're just in the way." Kirk clenched his jaw, trying to keep his composure. This was it. This was the moment he realized he wasn't just being replaced on the show. The network had already decided his fate. He was expendable. The drive home was a blur of thoughts and emotions. Kirk could barely process what Stevie had told him. How had it come to this? How had the show he helped build, the show that had been a part of his life for so long, decided to toss him aside like this? Was he really just a pawn in their game? He entered his home, and Rashida was already waiting for him. Her arms were crossed, her eyes searching his face for any sign of what had happened. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said quietly. Kirk ran a hand down his face, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. "It's worse than I thought, Rashida. It's not just about me messing up. It's not just about old scandals coming back. They're cutting me out on purpose." Rashida's expression didn't change. She was calm, but there was an edge to her voice as she stepped closer to him. "Then we fight back." Kirk looked at her, his chest heavy with frustration. "How? They control everything? They can edit me out, twist the narrative, make me look like a fool. Hell, they could make me the biggest villain on TV if they wanted." Rashida smirked, her eyes lighting up with determination. "Then we flip the script. If they want to make you look bad, we get ahead of it." We control the story before they do. Kirk raised an eyebrow, a small spark of hope flickering inside him. How do you propose we do that? Rashida's smile widened. We leak our own version of the story. We make it look like you're leaving on your own terms, like you're stepping away from the show because you're too big for reality TV now. We take control of the narrative before they can twist it. Kirk couldn't help but smile, a sense of power returning to him. You really think people will buy that? Rashida nodded confidently. Hell yeah, they will. We make it seem like you're the one making moves, not the other way around. That way, when they try to paint you as washed up, people will already believe you left on your own. Kirk sat back, his mind racing. This was it. This was the plan that could save him. The plan that would put him in control of the narrative. If they wanted to push him out, they'd have to do it on his terms. The next morning, Kirk posted a sleek, well-edited video on his Instagram. It was a direct message to his fans, with a calm, confident tone. After years of being a part of reality TV, I've decided it's time for a new chapter. I've given my heart and soul to this show, and now it's time to move on to bigger things. I appreciate my fans, my supporters, and everyone who's been a part of this journey. But trust me, this is just the beginning. Within hours, the post went viral. Fans flooded the comments offering their support. Damn, Kirk's leaving the show? That's wild. Respect to him for making the right choice, one fan wrote. Celebrities, influencers, and even former castmates joined in, praising him for taking control of his destiny. It was exactly what Kirk needed to make it look like his departure was his decision, not the network's. The producers were blindsided. They hadn't even had the chance to release their own statement yet, and by the time they tried, it was too late. The public had already decided the narrative. Kirk Frost wasn't getting fired. He was evolving. The morning after Kirk's viral post, everything seemed to be falling into place. He had controlled the narrative, making it appear as though he was stepping away from love and hip-hop on his own terms. The support poured in from all corners, and for a brief moment, Kirk thought he had won. But, as it often happens in the world of reality TV, when you're on top, there's always someone ready to take you down. Within hours, the storm hit. His phone buzzed nonstop with notifications. Tweets, Instagram messages, and news alerts flooded in. Kirk's hands shook as he opened Twitter. The hashtag #KirkFrostExposed was trending, and with it came a wave of old, unverified messages and texts, some of which he didn't even remember. The first headline read, Kirk Frost's real reason. For leaving the show, Shady DL's exposed. His heart pounded in his chest as he clicked on the links. It didn't take long for him to see what was happening. Old DM conversations, edited text exchanges, and whispers of infidelity. Some of these messages were real. Others had been doctored. But the problem was nobody cared about what was real or fake. They only cared about the drama. Kirk's mind raced. How did they get these? Was there a mole inside his circle? His worst fears were starting to come true. The smear campaign that he'd been trying to control was now out of his hands. He couldn't help but feel cornered as he scrolled through the brutal exposés. Did Kirk try to silence former cast members? Reality stars' dirty secrets come to light? Every headline felt like a punch to the gut, just as Kirk was trying to absorb the shock. Rashida stormed into the room, her face a mask of fury. What the hell is this, Kirk? She demanded, holding up her phone. Tell me you didn't actually send these messages. Kirk rubbed his face, his frustration boiling over. I don't even remember half of this stuff, Rashida. Some of it is fake. I can tell just by looking at it. But the problem is, nobody cares about what's real or fake anymore. It doesn't matter. Rashida's face hardened. You were supposed to get ahead of this, Kirk. We were controlling the narrative. And now, she gestured to her phone, showing him the endless posts and leaks. Now they're controlling it again. Kirk slammed his fist against the table, his anger boiling over. This isn't a coincidence, Rashida. Someone's setting me up. Rashida exhaled sharply, her eyes narrowing. So who is it? Who's pulling the strings? Kirk sat back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He had no answers. All he knew was that someone had gone to great lengths to destroy him. But who? And why? The question loomed larger than ever, and it seemed like it was going to be a long road ahead. Rashida's anger and concern as the days wore on, the damage continued. Every social media platform was alive with new rumors, stories, and leaks. The smear campaign was relentless. Kirk couldn't escape it. His reputation was being torn apart piece by piece, and he had no way to stop it. Rashida, meanwhile, had never looked more worried. She had been there for him through every scandal, every public humiliation. But this felt different. "You need to figure out who's behind this, Kirk," she said one night, her voice low and urgent. "If you don't, this is going to spiral out of control. You can't let them take you down like this." Kirk sat still, his mind clouded with anger and fear. "How do I even start, Rashida? Who do I even trust anymore?" Rashida gave him a pointed look. "Start with the people closest to you, the ones who know everything about you, your past, your moves, your mistakes. Whoever did this is someone who has access to all that." Kirk nodded slowly. "You're right. I need to figure this out, and I need to do it fast." He wasn't just fighting to save his career anymore. He was fighting to keep everything he had worked for from falling apart. Kirk didn't waste any more time. The pieces of his life were falling apart, and he needed to know who was behind it all. The producers had already made up their minds, and the public was starting to turn on him. If he didn't act fast, he would be erased from the reality TV world he had worked so hard to dominate. He decided to reach out to the one person who might know how to navigate the treacherous waters of love and hip-hop, Mona Scott Young. She was the mastermind behind the show, the person who had built the franchise from the ground up. If anyone knew what was really going on, it was her. Kirk dialed her number, his heart pounding. It rang 3 times before Mona's smooth, calm voice picked up. "Kirk," she said, sounding almost too serene. "I see what's happening." Kirk cut straight to the point. "You see what's happening? What the hell is going on, Mona? Why is all this happening to me?" Mona's voice remained steady. "Kirk, the question is, do you know why it's happening?" Kirk clenched his jaw. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Mona paused for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. "Kirk," she said finally, "this isn't just about you. The show is evolving. You were part of the old era, but now they need something different." Kirk's stomach twisted with unease. "So what does that mean for me?" Mona sighed, her tone colder now. "It means you're up against people who don't just want you off the show. They want you out of the industry for good." Kirk froze, his mind racing. This wasn't just a career-ending move. It was a complete erasure. But why? Who was pulling the strings? Who had the power to destroy everything he had built? Mona's voice softened, but there was no mistaking the finality in her words. "Kirk, I'm afraid you're already too late." Kirk's blood ran cold as the weight of her words settled in. He didn't have much time. The clock was ticking, and if he didn't act fast, he would lose everything. He had to find out who was behind this, and he had to do it before it was too late. Kirk's journey to uncover the truth led him to one place he never thought he'd have to go. Stevie J. He had always trusted Stevie, but now everything seemed suspect. Was Stevie really a friend, or was he part of the conspiracy to take Kirk down? Kirk showed up at an old warehouse on the edge of the city, a place he had never thought he'd visit. When he walked in, Stevie was already sitting at a table, casually, sipping a drink as though he didn't have a care in the world. Kirk didn't waste any time. He stormed in, his fists clenched. "It's you, isn't it? You set me up, you planted all this crap to get me out?" Stevie looked up, his expression completely unfazed. "Took you long enough to figure it out," he said with a smirk. Kirk's blood boiled. "Why, Stevie? What do you get out of this? What the hell do you gain from taking me down?" Stevie chuckled, setting his glass down on the table. "Control, my guy. See, you were part of the old guard. The new era? It needs new. Kings." Kirk's jaw tightened. "So, you're behind all of this? Fake messages? Turning the network against me?" Stevie didn't flinch. "Oh, Kirk, the network was already done with you. I just gave them a little push." Kirk's chest burned with rage. "You think you can replace me just like that?" Stevie's smirk widened. "Replace you? I already did." Before Kirk could react, 2 bodyguards emerged from the shadows, their towering figures blocking his path. Kirk froze, his fists still clenched at his sides. Stevie laughed. "You don't know when to quit, do you?" Stevie said, a cruel edge to his voice. "But you're already lost." Kirk's blood ran cold. This was it.